Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today is my final 2024 election prediction for the 2024 presidential race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. This is a very interesting video because I'm going to be going over some polling data courtesy of realclearpolitics.com and also mentioning about some other factors that factor into how I have each state going. It starts off with Harrison Walz getting 212 electoral votes, Donald Trump getting about 219, and I'm going to show you some polls first before I go into the predictions. Starting with the national polls, where right now Donald Trump has a 0.5% lead over Kamala Harris. This is pretty much unprecedented for when Donald Trump has been on the ballot, him leading the national vote in the head-to-head matchup against Kamala Harris. Now, of course, this is a few days before Election Day, so this is subject to change. This may not be what it looks like on Election Day itself. But if this does end up where it is, and Donald Trump is ahead by 0.5, that means that on Election Day, Real Clear Politics thinks Donald Trump will be leading the popular vote by 0.5%. And if that does happen, where Trump wins the popular vote of the United States by 0.5%, it is extremely, extremely unlikely Kamala Harris has a path to reaching 270 electoral votes and to win the 2024 presidential election. So Democrats, seeing this number showing Trump up 0.5 nationally, better be hoping that this is wrong and inaccurate, because if it's not, this virtually takes away any path for Harris to win. As for the battleground states themselves, looking at the top battleground states, right now Arizona, Donald Trump has a 2.4% lead. Nevada, Trump has a 0.5% lead. Wisconsin actually just flipped back. Harris is up 0.2 now. Michigan, Harris is up 0.4. Pennsylvania, Trump is up 0.7. North Carolina, Trump is up 1. And Georgia, Trump is up 2.8. And so this is obviously very, very close, but Trump has grown his lead in Georgia, in Arizona, and it is really, really close in Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And I'm not saying that it's not possible that Wisconsin and Michigan could go for Harris, but if Trump is winning the popular vote by 0.5%, given that the states have voted on average, if you saw my deep dive series, those states have voted about 3 to 4% Republican to the right of the popular vote based on the last 3 elections. I think it would be pretty highly improbable that those states are going to vote for Harris if she's losing the popular vote. That's a big if, because it's not a guarantee Harris will lose the popular vote. But if that is accurate and she is losing the popular vote, there's really not much of a path for Wisconsin or Michigan to be going for Harris. But that being said, looking at the RCP electoral map, I'm going to be going through a few states that I'm still pretty confident about that I know how they will go before getting into the pure toss-up states. Starting with the state of New Hampshire, New Hampshire was moved to the toss-up category away from the lean Democratic category. Right now, Kamala Harris is a lead of 49.8% to Trump's 45.8%. A recent St. Anselm poll has Harris up 5. Rasmussen has Trump up 1. Emerson has Harris up 3. UMass Lowell has Harris up 7. New Hampshire is very interesting because yes, the polls have it under 4%, but given everything I know about New Hampshire, I would still put it as a likely Kamala Harris state. I think it's going to be over 5% margin of victory on election night. I really don't see much of a trend there that New Hampshire is going to be super close. It might be under 5, but I would err more on the side of caution given its recent election history in 2020 and say New Hampshire just barely goes over 5% margin of victory. Now I'm going to go to the state of Minnesota, the home state of vice presidential nominee Tim Walz. This is one where the polls are 4.8% right now. Harris is leading over Trump 49.3 to 44.5. Similarly to New Hampshire, the polls show it is under 5%, which would put it in the lean category, but the history of the elections in this state, to me, says it's more likely than not is going to be a likely Democratic state. And just looking real closely at 2020, where Biden won Minnesota by 7.1%, yes, 2016 was close, Clinton won it by 1.5, but then you go back, Obama won it by 7.7, 2008, Obama won it by 10, in 2004, Kerry did win it by only 3.5. The recent history suggests it's more likely than not to be a likely Democratic state. It is possible to be a lean Democratic state, but I think likely Democratic for now for Minnesota. So Harris and Walz are up to 226, Trump and Vance are at 219, and this is where the real election starts with the toss-up states. And starting with the state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes, we're going to take a look at Georgia, where Donald Trump currently has a lead of 2.8% over Kamala Harris. Trump is 49.5%, Harris is 46.7%. It is also worth noting the high Trump ever got in Georgia was 49.4. He is now above that at 49.5. So this is a new high for Trump in the state of Georgia in this election cycle. And I mean, I think this is very much a good sign for Trump that he's going to win Georgia. And I thought originally it could be under 1. It's looking like it's going to be somewhere between 2 to 4, 2 to 5. So that would be enough to put the state of Georgia into the lean Donald Trump column. Not even tilt, just lean Donald Trump column. So that's very good news for Donald Trump. Next, we're going to go out west to the state of Arizona. Arizona, it's 11 electoral votes. This is one Joe Biden won in 2020. Donald Trump won it in 2016. Right now, the polls suggest Donald Trump is currently ahead by 2.4% in the RCP average. That would be a very good sign for Donald Trump that a state he lost in 2020, he's now up over to almost 2.5 percentage points. That's a very good sign for him, and that would have Trump winning the state of Arizona in the lean Republican column. And I think in my own personal predictions, he's going to do so on election night as well. Next, we're going to go to the state of Nevada. 6 electoral votes right next to Arizona. This is one where the polls have been very, very tight, and it's gone back and forth between Trump being ahead, Harris being ahead. It's gone back and forth, but I've been very bullish in my own personal rankings on this. I really believe on election night, Donald Trump is going to win the state of Nevada. I think voter turnout will be higher in Nevada than it was in 2020 and in 2016. I think Trump is running far better in Nevada than he did in 2020 and 2016. And even if the polling data shows a super close race, or even if Harris pulls ahead in the final few days, I am still very bullish. I've been for a few months now that I think the state of Nevada will end up going to Donald Trump. I think it'll be under 1% of the vote, but if you saw my election night video, you would know I gave Trump the state of Nevada before Trump even took the lead in the polls there. I still think Donald Trump is going to pull out a win in Nevada. That could be one I'm wrong about on election night, but I'm very confident that I think Trump will win the state of Nevada. So Trump and Vance are at 252, Harris and Walz are at 226. Now we're going to look at the state of North Carolina and its 16 electoral votes. This is one where the polls have been showing a very, very close race. Trump is at 48.5, Harris is at 47.5. And it's definitely good news Trump is leading here, because there was a while it was getting very, very close where Harris was only down by 0.1. A few weeks ago, Trump was only up by half a percentage point. But I think we're going to see North Carolina be a state where on election day, a lot of the undecided vote is going to go for Trump. And I think if he's winning Arizona and Georgia by about 2.5 points, I think we're going to see Trump win North Carolina by at least 2 points. So the polls are really tight right now, but given the national vote being 0.5 for Trump and seeing that Trump is doing very well in Arizona and Georgia, I think we're going to see North Carolina follow suit. Trump is going to win North Carolina by over 1% of the vote. I have him winning it by about 2 to 2.2%. That would put Trump with North Carolina at 268 to 226. And as I've been saying for months now, the election comes down to the 3 Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These 3 states are very, very interesting because Wisconsin and Pennsylvania do have the longer track record of voting for Republicans than the state of Michigan does. And yet Michigan for a while had better polling numbers for Donald Trump in the last few weeks. That has since changed a little bit, where now if you look at the battlegrounds, Harris is now pulled ahead very narrowly in Michigan. Harris is pulled ahead very narrowly in Wisconsin, but Trump is still leading in Pennsylvania. And in the past few elections, it has been very rare for these states to vote differently, where in 2020, Pennsylvania was 1.2 for Biden, 2.8 in Michigan for Biden, and 0.63 for Biden in 2020. Looking at 2016, Pennsylvania was 0.7 for Trump, Michigan was 0.2, and Wisconsin was 0.76. So they all voted the same way. 2012, once again, they all voted the same way as they did in 2008 and 2004, though narrowly, Wisconsin almost flipped, but narrowly, 2000, 96, 92. The last time they didn't was 1998, where in 1998, Bush won Michigan and Pennsylvania, and Dukakis won Wisconsin. So history suggests it's more likely than not that these states are going to vote the same way. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. It is possible that history is wrong and that these states may give us a split result. I don't think it's certainly impossible, but I was really skeptical on this because I've gone back and forth about Michigan especially, about what to give it to either Trump or to Harris. But given the national vote is now 0.5% in advantage of Trump, even if Trump doesn't win the national vote on election day, if Trump only loses the popular vote by less than half of 1%, that is a very good sign for Trump. Where again, in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, these are 3 states that based on the last two elections have voted to the right of the popular vote every single time Trump has been on the ballot. If that trend continues, to me that says Trump is going to be in a very good position to win the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Of these three states, the state I think I'm most sure about is going to be the state of Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes. This is a state where Donald Trump is a 0.7% lead. This election cycle, it's been back and forth for a while, but in the last few weeks, Trump pulled ahead, and he's had a lead ever since really the middle of October, and it does not look like Harris has really come too close to flipping it back, despite a slew of new polls in the last few days that showed either a tied race, Trump +1, Trump +2, or Trump +3. The only one showing Harris ahead was UMass Lowell, which does have, according to 538, a heavy Democratic oversample, and Bloomberg, which also has the same on 538. I think that's very good news for Trump. Trump is in a good position in the state of Pennsylvania, and I think Trump is going to win the state of Pennsylvania. The question is whether it's going to be under 1% or over 1%. I think just narrowly, it might be a 1.1% win for Trump in Pennsylvania, putting it over the tilt column and into the lean column. So I think Trump is going to win the state of Pennsylvania. That would get Trump over 270 at 287, making him the next president of the United States, with two states remaining, Michigan and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's another state that, similar to Nevada, the polls have been back and forth on this, but I am very bullish that I think Trump is going to win the state of Wisconsin. The polls overestimated the Democrats in 2020 and 2016 by a lot in Wisconsin. 2024, this time around, it doesn't seem to be doing so as much. It seems the polls have been kind of course corrected and are more accurate. Harris led for a very long time by up to even 2 points, and then it's gotten very close again where Trump is up by 0.5 or less. Harris is now pulled ahead to 0.2. This one is very, very close. We have a CNN poll that has Harris +6, but as I showed you with the national vote numbers, you can't have a national vote where Trump is up by 0.5 or even down 0.5, and a state like Wisconsin being Harris +6. That just doesn't make any sense. So I definitely think that poll is an outlier. And taking that CNN poll out of this equation, even the Marquette poll having Harris +1, with all the ties in the Trump +1 from Emerson, from USA Today, from Insider Advantage, that would end up giving Trump a under 1% lead in the state of Wisconsin, and that's where I think Wisconsin is going to go. That polling average where Harris is barely leading is being skewed heavily by that CNN poll, and I think Trump is able to win Wisconsin under 1% of the vote. That gets Trump up to 297. Harris and Walz are at 226. Lastly, we have the state of Michigan. Michigan is tricky because it is the most Democratic of the three Rust Belt states. Trump also won it by the smallest margin in 2016 than the other ones of Wisconsin and Michigan. And this is interesting. Harris has a 0.4% lead now, where Harris had a lead of about 2 points for a while, over 2.4 and down, back and forth. And then Trump pulled ahead a few weeks ago, and Trump led for a little bit. Now Trump has gone down, and Harris has pulled ahead now. This is really interesting in Michigan because the polls suggest Emerson had Trump up 1, Insider Advantage had Trump up 1, USA Today and Fox had it tied, Atlas Intel and Mitchell Research have Trump up 1, Washington Post has Harris up 1. This is a very, very close one, and this is, I think, of all the states on the electoral map, this is the state I'm most unsure of. But again, I like Quinnipiac and Susquehanna. If Trump is up in the national vote or even down by less than 1, Trump's not going to be losing Michigan by 5 points. It doesn't mathematically add up given how the state of Michigan votes. So taking those polls out, I think again it would be a very narrow lead for Trump. And given the historical precedent of the three Rust Belt states usually voting together, I am going to very, very narrowly give the state of Michigan to Donald Trump. But this is one I think is very, very close, and I certainly could absolutely see this going to Harris on election night. But given historical precedents, I think Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin all go for Donald Trump. If the national vote is 0.5%, we may even see a closer election in Minnesota, New Hampshire, Virginia than even expected. So my prediction, my final 2024 prediction, is Donald Trump getting 312 electoral votes, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz getting 226 electoral votes in an election that may seem like a blowout in terms of the electoral college numbers, 312 to 226, but when you go state by state, Pennsylvania under 5, North Carolina under 5, Georgia under 5, Arizona under 5, and Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan all under 1 is actually a very, very close and competitive election. And I think this has been kind of the sign this whole time for this election is that no matter what happens, it's likely going to be very, very close in terms of the swing state margins of victories. But, of course, the election is on Tuesday, November 5th, Everyone, if you have not voted yet, get out and vote. Your vote really does matter in this very, very close election. Make sure you do that. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed my final 2024 presidential election prediction. Keep an eye out for my Senate prediction. That'll be coming out as well later in the day. Thank you so much for watching. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really, really, really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.